I Crimp Wires? Sometimes in robotics electronics, you need custom length wires, and one of the best ways to do that is to make your own. Having custom wires can help make cable management easier and make sure you have the appropriate slack for your electronics. In FRC, we commonly see custom cables used in CAN buses, sensors, and extending subsystems. For custom cables, you'll want to cut your wire to length, strip back the wire the appropriate amount, and then use the appropriate crimpers for your connector. At AndyMark, we sell a few different crimping tools, and each of these crimpers is specific to the type of connector it uses. Each of our crimping tools has a ratcheting mechanism in it to make the crimping process smoother and have less strain on the person who's crimping. Let's start with Anderson power poles. They are most commonly used along the main power in your robot. All right, let's cut our wire to size. I've split the wires down the middle a bit just so I can show the crimping easier. Using wire strippers, I'm gonna strip down the housing to size for the connector. You figure out how much you want to strip back by looking at the Powerpole connector. You need to strip back enough so that your wire is touching the inner crimp. After stripping the wire, I'm twisting it. If you ever do strip back too much, these wire strippers in particular have snips at the bottom, so you can snip off your wire and start again. And then also this red dial here tells you how much you're stripping back. So if you need to strip back farther, you push it closer to the base. And if you need to strip back less, you push it closer to the tip. There's 3 slots in this crimping tool for your power pole to go into. Depending on your wire gauge is which one you're gonna enter. So then you can tug on it a bit to make sure it's properly connected. And if it is, the top crimp should be clamped down to some of this copper. And then for Anderson connectors, you'll wanna take your plastic piece and click this power pole into place. It should be an actual click. So after it's clicked in, you'll want to tug on the wire to make sure that it can withstand force coming back on it and make sure the connection's good. After this process is done, you'll want to go back and check your cables to make sure none of the copper is exposed. Another common type of connector in FRC are these ferrules. Typically, they're in a much smaller wire gauge than this. You might use them for your CAN to plug back into your RoboRio. It could be power, it could be signal. So stripping back this wire again, twisting it so that the contact's secure within the wire, as close contact as it can get with itself, the better. And then sticking the ferrule on. You want this housing to be about up here where this housing meets the metal part of the ferrule. You should strip it back far enough so that your copper can go most of the way up this connection. And then with your crimping tool, you'll open it up and just on the metal part, not on this plastic part, put it through the center and then close it all the way. And then it should be crimped. And then you can do another tug test to make sure that this connection's secure, and then it's ready to be connected. Another way of connecting with bare wires that isn't with crimping is through one of these WAGO connectors. These WAGO connectors have a recommended gauge width of 18 to 12 gauge wire. We're gonna strip back some of this 14 gauge wire, twist it, and then you'll open one of these clips. This is 2 sides. So it should be whatever your wire's connecting to, just make sure it's connected to the same on the other side. So if this were ground wire, just make sure it's ground to ground so you don't short out. And then you can go in far enough to have your housing in the plastic housing and then clip it down and do a tug test to make sure the connection's secure. But that's all you have to do. There's no crimping involved. This next process is applicable for both CAN or PWM wires. Right now I'm using CAN. I have these male pins, and then if you're making a custom cable, you'll have a female on the other end. So you'll have to make male pins and female pins. So same process, I'll strip back, and then you'll want to make sure that your wire is secure in the first clamp and that your housing is in the second. And then we have these smaller crimps for the smaller power poles. This one's 22 gauge, so we're using the smallest crimp. And you just want to set it in. Now that it's crimped down, you can tug on it again to make sure the connection's secure. Make sure it's making contact with this first clip. And then similar to the Andersons, you're just gonna connect into here until you hear a click. Crimping cables can be pretty straightforward when you have the right tools. Secure connections are important to make sure your robot can withstand competition. And that is how you crimp wires.